All right, so now that we've got all this great home golf simulator and launch monitor technology that very effectively measure exactly what both the ball and the club are doing, it makes me wonder, why don't we have anything that measures what the body is doing? Well, the good news is, now we do. And of course, what I'm talking about here is something called Sportsbox AI, which both tracks and measures your entire golf swing using 3D modeling. And it even integrates with some launch monitors, so now you can get ball, club, and body mechanics measured all in one place. And as impressed as I am with this technology, I can't honestly say that I'm surprised it exists. I mean, think about it. We now have affordable home launch monitors that are able to track a golf ball moving at over 150 miles an hour and spinning at more than 2,000 revolutions per minute. And if we can measure that, then why can't we use the same high-speed camera technology to measure those minute little movements in our golf swing? And that's where Sportsbox AI comes into the picture. And in fact, this is something that's even being used at the highest level of the game, with guys like Bryson DeChambeau using Sportsbox to help him with his incredible US Open win at Pinehurst.
Dana Dahlquist has been very instrumental and helpful in Sportsbox AI this week. We're gathering a lot of really cool data.
We're gonna dig into that fascinating story of Bryson using Sportsbox at the US Open even deeper. But first, let's really dig into what exactly Sportsbox is. So basically, Sportsbox comes in two different forms. You've got the desktop version, which I'll demonstrate more for you guys in just a second. And this is great for coaches or even as an addition to a home golf simulator setup for someone who wants to create a real pro level practice station. But what I'm maybe even more excited about is the mobile app version, because what this does is it takes Sportsbox AI's 3D motion capture technology and it makes it accessible to everyone, everywhere. Now, before I show you more about how Sportsbox works, I do want to jump really quickly back into that Bryson story because this absolutely blew my mind. So flashback just a couple of months ago, Paul Park, who is a former PGA Tour player himself, he's also the founder of G-Pod. Well, now he works with Sportsbox and he stopped by our office and he told me this incredible story about how Bryson prepped for the US Open using Sportsbox AI.
So Bryson, he came to us a week prior to the US Open. He's been working with Dana Dahlquist, who's been our ambassador for Sportsbox. And Bryson just had some questions in regards to this ball flight that would kind of start right and just stay right. And he wanted some objective data. And so Dana and the Sportsbox team, we went out to Dallas and we took just hundreds of swings so that we could just collect all the data on Sportsbox. And we did it all using the iPhone, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And the strongest relationship by far was his sway gap. What we found was when he's swinging his best and hitting his perfect push draws, he was right around negative 1.7 to negative 2.2 inches.
Okay.
And then on his bad ones, they were closer to -1. And we're talking about less than an inch, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't see that really on 2D video, but the data clearly showed a very strong relationship between how much sway gap he had and how much he's able to turn the ball over. And so at the US Open, every practice round, every warm up, every range session after each round, we were just dialing in that sway gap number for him. And it's just crazy to, again, just that 0.7 inches can make a huge, difference in, what the ball is doing. And this is something that, your eyeballs can't really see.
And look, even though we're not professionals like Bryson, I think anyone who plays this game can relate to that story on some level. I mean, think about how many times you've been frustrated with your swing and you're just not quite sure what's off. Well, that story proves that it can be just very small little movements that can cause dramatic differences in the way that our golf swing performs on the course. So being able to use these tools like Sportsbox, almost like an additional set of eyes or a little bit of a coach in your pocket, so to speak, is really invaluable when it comes to making continual progress over time. Okay, so now let's take a second to show you exactly how Sportsbox works. And let's start first with the Studio version, which uses a dedicated high-speed camera and software running on our home simulator PC. And like I said before, I think this Studio setup is an amazing addition for anyone who already has a home golf simulator setup like this and really wants to take that to the next level. So taking a look here in the Studio version, which you can install on your home golf simulator PC like we did here, you basically have two modes. You've got an assessment mode and a training mode. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And what it does is it kind of follows the same progression as if you were to go to a golf coach. The first thing they're gonna do is assess your swing, and then after that, they're gonna assign you some training and some feels, which you would do here in order to groove those new motions into your swing. All right, so like I said, we've got the assessment mode here. We've got the high-speed camera set up, which does come as part of the Studio package. We'll talk about all those prices in just a second, but I do want to demonstrate how this works. So I'm going to take a swing here, then we're going to look at the data. And one thing that I really love about this system is that it saves and stores every single swing you take. So over the last 2 months or so of using this, I've literally logged hundreds of swings, and now I'm creating a great catalog for myself to go back and look at my progress over time, even favorite some of my swings that I really felt like good, and that's what I want to remember as far as those different feels and motions. So it creates a huge catalog of swings. But let me take a swing here, and then we're going to show you all that amazing 3D motion capture data that you get from it. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the data that we got out of this by viewing the analysis. So if I click view analysis, here's where it gets really cool. Now you see instantly we've got a 3D model of my swing, and I can play that back in slow motion, side by side, and see every single thing that happened in my swing, both with the visual recording of the swing from the camera as well as the 3D model. And throughout that, you're gonna see every single thing that was measured. We can change which metrics we want to see if you're identifying or working on specific stuff, but where this can get a little bit overwhelming for some is that if you're not a coach, it's a lot of data. And this is where those benchmarks and ranges come in and are so helpful. One thing that I know I struggle with is my pelvic sway. And really what that means is just not getting my weight shift, forward to the ball towards the target. I tend to hang back a little bit. And as you can see here, that's the number that's highlighted in yellow. And if you click on that, you can see how you compare to a pro player. So I can see that I'm just a little bit off there. I'm gonna show you in a second what you do then with the training with that if we really wanna work on that. But just again, looking through this, you can get an idea of how much you can really do. We can jump to certain positions. Like if I want to jump to just impact, I can click impact, and you can see that automatically the video and the 3D model are completely synced up. There's just so much you can do here. We can scrub through this and look at each position, and we can look at all those key measurements for each one, which I think is so fantastic. And where else do you get this? On top of that, we can even change the view. This is obviously face on, but I can look from down the line view of my swing. I can go from the target view. One that I really like is from the bottom. I can really see how my 3D model moves looking from the bottom up or from the top down. So instead of having to have a camera on every angle of my swing, using this technology, the high-speed camera, it creates that 3D model, and now I can effectively look at my swing from every single direction, from just one camera, which is really quite exciting if you really think about it. So with that said, now that we've seen every single number on our swing, now when it comes to getting actually better, I think the best thing to do is just to try to focus on just one thing at a time. And this is where now we switch into a training mode. So there are a number of different possible trainings here. There are a lot of baked in ones that you can go through, but you can also create some custom ones. So I've got this one here, just get to your lead side. And what that'll do is it's still gonna measure every part of my swing, but it creates a practice mode where I can take as many swings as I want. I'll get instant measurements for each one of those swings. And I've now set a kind of a range or a parameter here of where I wanna be with that pelvic sway. So I'll be able to see swing after swing whether or not I hit my goal. And what I like about this is as you introduce new feels, or maybe you do different types of drills that might help you get to your lead side, there's things like the step drill and other things that you can try. You can try a couple of those drills and then put those feels into place and then use Sportsbox to measure and see if you've done it. And this is the thing that really makes this tool stand out for me, because at the end of the day, we are talking about very small measurements. And this is not necessarily something that you can even see with the naked eye. As great as it is to record your swing with your camera on your phone or whatever it may be, it can be very hard to see something as small as the pelvic sway of a difference of 1 or even a ½ inch. Here is where Sportsbox does that heavy lifting and lets me know, because as we heard in that Bryson story, it could be something as small as an inch in your motion, in the way that you move your body, that creates dramatic differences in the consistency of your swing and your ball flight. So quickly, just to demonstrate here on the screen in this training mode, I've got pelvis sway and chest sway called out, and I can take as many swings as I want, seeing if I'm in that range. So now just kind of knowing that I wasn't quite getting to my lead side, I'm gonna focus on just that one thing and see if I can get my weight shifting a little bit more forward towards the target to see what kind of numbers we can get. Now I hit that one a little bit thin. I was more focused on my body movement than ball contact, but here I can see I did it. I got a green number there, 3.9 inches. Remember, this is measured down to the 10th of an inch. So now I know, okay, that is where I need to be. That's the feel I need. And I can just rehearse this. I like to put, a 10, 15 minute practice session in, just focusing on that one thing and just watching as I hit those numbers. And if I miss the number, I think about what didn't I do there. So it's very, very effective practice. All right, so now if you're seeing this and you're thinking, yeah, that's some pretty amazing tech, but I don't have a place to set up a whole home studio like that. Well, that's where this pretty incredible mobile version comes into play. And make no mistake here, the mobile version is not just some watered down version of this studio version that I just showed you. In fact, the mobile version uses the exact same technology that the studio version does. Here though, it's using the high-speed cameras that are built into your phone in order to measure your swing. And if I'm being completely transparent with you guys, even though I am fortunate enough that I've got both here, I would say a good 80% of the time, I'm actually using the mobile version. And that's largely because it's just so portable. I can really use this anywhere. I use the G-Pod as a tripod for this, and what it allows you to do is you can set up to record either indoors or outdoors, hitting into a net, or if you want some of that feedback of how your swing is performing actually on the golf course, you can bring this out on the course. You can set it up and record your swings as you play through a practice round. And with this too, you can set it up either face on or down the line to capture your swing from multiple different angles, all the while making and creating those 3D models, taking all of those measurements, and like I said earlier, creating that massive library of swings so you can track your improvement over time. All right, so now let's talk about price and who this is for. And this is where between the studio version and the mobile app version, it really covers a little bit of something for everyone. Coaches can set up the studio or even use the mobile app in their coaching bay, and they're able to record the swings for many of their different students using some of the coaching plan options, and then students can use this in order to practice at home like we talked about, and using that very focused training, or even being able to send those swings directly to their coaches. And I also think a great application for this is anybody who's really working on optimizing. Like maybe you're doing, some speed training and looking at things like wrist angles and how much shoulder turn or X factor turn you're getting. If you really want to optimize that, then this is really incredible for people who are chasing that type of improvement as well. So with that said, I think the best next step is really just to try it for yourself. And I think the best way to start with that is definitely with the mobile version. There is a free version there that you can get started with. It will allow you to record a few swings and get a look at some insight into how all of that data works. I think, like I said, seeing is believing. So I would say start with that, go grab the free version, give it a try and see if it's something that you can use as a tool to get better. And then if you want to go from there are some premium subscriptions that surprisingly start as low as less than $10 per month, letting you swing as many times as you want and really record all of those swings. And then if you are a coach or you've got a home simulator and you're looking to turn that into a high-tech training facility, then maybe the PC version of the Studio software is what's ultimately better for you. It does come with a higher price tag. It starts at around $5,000, and the price does go up based on how many of the high-speed cameras you add. But it is still a whole lot of tech for the price, so I would not be surprised to start seeing a lot of these Sportsbox Studio equipment start to pop up at coaches and training facilities pretty much everywhere. All right, so that is a real quick overview of Sportsbox AI. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than I can cover in just one video, but I did want to introduce you to it because it has been my absolute favorite training tool over the past couple of months, and we are going to be using it a whole lot more here on the channel, integrating it with other videos we do as we continue to work on game improvement, mobility, and really measuring the golf swing. So you're going to see a whole lot more of it, but in the meantime, if you do have any questions, thoughts, comments, make sure you drop them in the comments below, and we will see you guys in the next video.